The other point, my final point about Cancun at this point is the finance debate. It seems to get knocked down into it. There is enough money or there isn't enough money. So coming out of Cancun, we've got 30 billion fast start, 100 billion by 2020. But really, I think what's interesting is that there's actually a lot of funding around. A lot of it can be leveraged significantly with private commercial investment as well. But post-financial crisis, with the credit markets having dried up, they haven't quite come back again yet. And we have to find ways, in advance of a long-term carbon price, to change the risk-reward profile in emerging markets. And that's where I think there is huge opportunity for financiers and the private sector to explain to ministers of finance and ministers of economy what the regulatory environment could do that would start to alter that risk-reward profile, how it would be possible to blend financial solutions into these economies. And then I think you start seeing the capital that is attracted into the potential of being part of the story of success in emerging markets, you start bringing that in quicker. So I think that Cancun would be very important if we can start to shift the debate from there is enough money, there isn't enough money, to what kind of money applied in what kind of blend, in what kind of place, for what kind of solution, and have the ministers of finance sitting, talking to investors and to you about what you really need in order to change that risk-reward profile.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Ms. Cox?
Well, actually, I have been involved in sustainability since the Rio Summit in 1992. And what I experience here is very clear. We are at a historic turning point of sustainability. That's what we are experiencing at this moment. What does it mean? We clearly now move from a problem to a solution mode. And some of you may not have been very happy with Copenhagen, but I think one thing that Copenhagen has really done is to do exactly that. In all the speeches this morning, we have heard the word solutions. I think everybody in this world has recognized the problem, and most of us are now moving towards the solution mode. And I think that's the great news, and for me, that's really, since 1992, it's a very historic turning point that we all experience in the area of sustainability. Now, in order to do solutions, technology matters. And my company actually has come to Mexico in 1894 with technology. What did we do? Or let's say the people who lived at that moment, I wasn't part of it. Well, they brought lighting to Mexico City. So just think, in 1894, to bring lighting technology to such an important city as Mexico City, it totally changed the people's life. So technology matters for the quality of life, but technology matters for the question of climate change. And what is interesting today, that when you really analyze technology, we are a technology company, what exists today in technology, not in the pipelines, not in the research centers, but what is already there, ready to roll out, being rolled out, actually can fully achieve the 2-degree target that has been set. So the technology is there. It's not an issue of technology, very clearly. So I think that's the first important news. The second important news is what we experience is there is a green race going on. Many countries, say China and others, Germany, have clearly recognized there is a green economy. And actually, this green economy is good, because what does it do? It creates green jobs. So the green race is clearly going on in countries, but also in companies. And for companies to be lean and green, not just lean, but also green, is today a competitive advantage. Because our customers, your customers, they want to have efficient, energy efficient, and sustainable solutions. That's what they want to buy. Now, what are we doing in Siemens in this context? We see climate change as an opportunity to roll out our technologies in energy, in building, in mobility. So basically, in a very, very full and comprehensive scope. In 2010, we just closed the year last week. We haven't yet the final figure, but we assume that the sales, the revenue with our green portfolio, so our environmental technologies, will be above 25 billion euros. So that's one important figure. But even more importantly, with this technology, our customers are able to reduce CO2 every year by 210 megatons. And that is 4 times the yearly output of Mexico City, or it's half of the yearly output of Mexico as a country. We're working a lot in our own factories. Actually, one of our big lighting factories here in Mexico has just undergone our own energy efficiency program. And we just started a month ago to offer such a program to our suppliers. So, the great news, we move from problems to solutions in sustainability, really looking at sustainability as a solution. The technology is here, it has to be rolled out. And in Siemens, we see it as an opportunity. Cancun, of course, wishful thinking would be to move from the Copenhagen letter to the Cancun Treaty. But I think for companies to really accelerate the rollout of technology, the rollout of technology will happen anyhow, because there is a business equation to that. There's a clear business case to roll out this technology, but certainly to have a frame agreement, to have a lot more voluntary pledges in that context. And some amazing countries, Indonesia, South Africa, have just done voluntary pledges, so why not more? So I think all that would just simply help to accelerate the rollout.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cox. Mr. Serpico.
Thank you very much, Eric, and good morning to all of you. As the local guy here, I'll try to just bring a little bit of perspective from the Mexican scene. And as the title of this event suggests, and the profile of the attendees gathered today, I think that we are all probably preaching to the choir, and I am certainly one of them. I started at a very young age my first business venture with a solar energy startup. I had a lot of experience, no profits, and probably a venture that was basically ahead of its time. Our company now, Grupo Bimbo, has embarked on a very strong, committed to the environment strategy. We have 6 elements of it, and 3 of them are mostly geared towards the climate change efforts: energy savings, value chain impact, and conservation of the natural environment. In the energy savings front, we continue to find small and large opportunities to reduce our energy consumption. We have 99 plants and more than 30,000 vehicles in our fleet. And what's very impressive is that most of the initiatives that we embark upon can have a very short period of time in paying themselves. In the last 2 years, we reduced 7% our energy consumption per ton produced. And that's just ourselves. We're now sharing more and more with our suppliers, our customers, as well as our competitors, our findings and our best practices. And we're learning from them as well. We believe that in the global challenge that we have and we confront and the climate change, we are all together, and we should not keep ourselves the good ideas only for us. Our third leg in this strategy is to protect the natural environment through Reforestamos México. Deforestation and degradation accounts for 17% of the greenhouse gas emissions in Mexico. We founded this institution in 2002, and we have already supported the plantation of more than 8 million trees so far. We're working with the local communities and sponsoring projects that allow them to profit and earn a living through sustainable forestry, and we're linking them with market opportunities. So that's a brief account of where we stand, but we do believe that we need to do much more so. And we do support that there is a global legal agreement to control emissions. We know that the outlook for it is not a very promising one, but I think that the world needs, on this issue, to speed itself. And the clearer the rules are, the better the chances for success will be for all of us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Daniel. Dr. Konzelman.
Right, well, let me start first by reflecting on what Gerrit Kell said at the beginning about lobbyists, saying that in the same companies, you might find people sort of being against some regulations or some planned regulations, while some other departments are actually preparing to turn these into a competitive advantage. That's probably true, but I think what's even having a bigger influence on the climate change environment is that some companies obviously stand to win from more stricter regulation, and I think Siemens is a clear case in point, whereas certainly some other type of companies, their life will get more difficult. So obviously they send their lobbies to fight against some of these restrictions. Now the food industry, the food sector, the food and okay, my microphone is not working either. So the food sector and the food and agriculture sector is not a major emitter of, especially not of CO2. So why are we here anyway at this kind of conference? Well, we are deeply convinced at Nestle that you can only be successful in business over the long term if you're doing what is right for society, and that obviously includes the environment in the long term. So even though we are not a big emitter, we are clearly concerned that the long-term effects of climate change will have, or what the consequences might be on well-being, and in particular on food security. Now, we've certainly also, like the other companies represented here, have done our homework. We have actually reduced over the past 10 years our CO2 emissions directly from our factories by 16% in absolute terms, not just relative, while growing our business, our production volume by 63%. So decoupling is clearly possible. We're also a member in the European Union of the Corporate Leaders Group on Climate Change, and all these efforts have just 2 weeks ago been recognized by the Carbon Disclosure Project, where we have achieved the top mark on carbon performance, and we came in second in carbon disclosure. But what I think is really the most important impact of what businesses such as Nestle can have is to embed resource efficiency into our own products. We're just a few kilometers from here expanding to what will be the world's largest soluble coffee factory here in Mexico, in Toluca. And just soluble coffee, since it is such an important, and coffee is such an important product also here for Mexico, as well as it obviously is for Nestle, I think is a very good example. By drinking a cup of soluble coffee, you actually can halve your environmental footprint and halve your carbon footprint compared to drink a cup of coffee that has been traditionally prepared by filter coffee, by roast and ground coffee. So that is an example, a very stark example of how technologies, how efficiencies of scale, economies of scale, that often translate into ecologies of scale, because it is often much more efficient, not only financially, but also for the environment, to do things on an industrial scale with advanced technology. Now, having talked about climate and carbon and greenhouse gases, still our major preoccupation in the food sector, in the agriculture and food sector, is certainly not in the short and medium term climate, but it's actually water.